Welcome to my channel. In this course, we've designed it for everyone, whether you come from a tech background or not. In this video, we'll start with an introduction to basic Python, and in the following videos, we'll delve deeper into the topic. Python is a high-level programming language. It's a general-purpose language and finds application in backend servers, AI, and data science. While we won't go into extensive details, it's worth noting that Python is open source and stands out for its concise code compared to other languages like Java, C, and C++, and many more. To get started with Python, you can use various integrated development environments, IDEs, like PyCharm, Anaconda, or Visual Studio Code. However, for this video, I'll be using Google Colab. It's convenient because it doesn't consume your PC's RAM and storage. You just need to sign in with your Google account. Just like the way I've done it, I've signed it using my Google account, and you just need to type in your browser Google Colab Python and this screen will appear in front of you. So let's dive into Python variables. What is a variable? So basically a variable is used to store data, and Python is quite flexible in this regard. For instance, you don't need to specify the data type explicitly. Here's an example. For suppose, if there's a variable name A, and if you need to store 10 into it, you will just write 10. Alright. If there's another variable B, and if you want to store a string variable in that, you'll just hit the double quotation marks and type in whatever type of data you want to store. It's so simple. In terms of naming conventions for the variables, it's essential to use meaningful identifiers, not like A, B. If the name is long, consider using underscores to separate the words, like if there is a variable name items to count. So what you will do, you write items underscores to underscores count. And if you write like this, so it will not look good. So try using underscores whenever you are defining a variable's name. For variables, a common convention is the camel case, where the first word starts with a lowercase letter and subsequent words begin with uppercase letters. For example, we'll take the same variable name items to count. So write items and then to count. So this is also one of the conventions used in Python. Python primarily deals with 4 common data types. String. For string, like for a string variable, you just need to add double quotation marks and add the data, whatever the data is. And the second type of data is the data type is integer. So like int variable, following the conventions too. So we can just assign an integer variable into a variable name int var. The third most frequent used is a float. Floating number is basically a data type which includes decimals inside it, like 10.23. This is not an integer value, this is a floating or a double value. And the fourth one is a boolean variable, which has 2 types of data, true or false. Make sure the T is always capitalized. If you write it like this it will consider like a string or it will give you an error. So always make it sure that the T is capitalized. Even if you write false, so the F should be capitalized while writing it. And these are the 4 most common data types used in any language, regardless of the Python. So as mentioned, you don't need to declare the data type explicitly, but you can do so using implicit and explicit type casting. For an example, if you write a is equals to 10, so we are assigning an integer, a digit into a variable named a, alright. But if we want to typecast it, if we want to convert it into a string variable or a boolean variable or a floating type variable, so we just write the data type like str and parenthesis and the variable a. This will convert it into, this will change the data type of the variable a. Also make sure to add this thing. Otherwise, a, if you will not write a is equals to stra, so this will not be converted until unless you write this thing. I'll show you. Like if we write print, and now we just want to see the type of the variable a. So I write type parenthesis and the variable name, which is a over here, and I'll run the code block. So as you saw, it says this is an integer variable, but like I said, I want to convert it into a boolean variable likewise. So I'll write not boolean but a double, a floating point number. I want to convert it into a decimal number like 10.0. So I'll write float parenthesis and the variable a, and I'll run the code block. Now if you see, the data type hasn't been changed. You see it's integer. Even the fact that I decided to convert the data type to float. So the problem is I didn't mention this thing. This is called initialization, which is very important to write over here. So now when I'll run the code block, you will see the data type of A has changed. I can also see the value before changing the data type and after changing the uh, data type. I'll just print A, and then after changing the data type, we'll see what's the difference. So you will see it was 10 before, alright, and when we changed the data type to float, it has converted to 10.0. In the same way, if for an example this was in floating number, all right, and if we want to print it, so 10.34 will be printed, and if you want to check the data type of it, we'll write type and the name of the variable, all right, verify if this is a floating digit. Yes, it's the data type of this variable is float. Now, if I want to convert this floating point number into an integer, so I'll write like a is equals to, which is initialization part, and write type, write integer, in which I need to convert the variable and write a. So I'm saying that convert a into integer, and I'll print it and see what's the value stored in a right now when I've converted it into integer. So you see this has been rounded down to 10. So my original value was 10.34 and it has been converted to 10. So in the same way I can also convert it into string. For string it's we use str as a keyword. For boolean we write bool to convert it, right? If we convert it into bool, we can see the results. It will be true. If we write str, so converting it into a string data type, so it's 10.34, and the last is float, which is the data type already defined. So it's already float. So this doesn't make a difference. So these four are the main data types which are used in Python. Alright, Moving on to the arithmetic operators. So the most common arithmetic operators are, I'll show you using my, uh, I've covered this up till now, the variables, like as I told you, integer, float, and boolean, and the naming conventions are used, an underscore is used, or uh, the camel case is used. I've talked about the data types. The majorly used ones are the four ones: integer, a string, boolean, and floating point value. All right. Now we'll see the arithmetic operators. So we have always, you know, saw these. So there's an addition, subtraction, multiplication. For multiplication, we use asterisk. For division, you can see the operators also on the left hand side, and then modulus, exponentiation, floor division. So these are the operators which are used for arithmetic operations to be conducted. So we'll see all of these in Python. Like if we defined we'll define x as 20 and y is equals to 10. And if we write x divided by y, so it should give us a value 2. So let's, so if you see, so this has given us a floating point value which is 2. All right. We can even convert it. We can even typecast it in, to integer value. All right. If we get an 11, so this will always give us an floating point value. But we can always typecast it into integer variable, so it round it off or round it down. All right. Moving forward, we can multiply it by using asterisk, and the result should be 200 as expected. Now this is an integer value, if you see, because if it would be a floating point value, it would be 200.0. Moving forward, we can use plus operator, which will be 30 in this case, and we can use minus, which will be 10. It's taking a lot of time, right? These are the most common used operators in uh, Python, in any programming language, basically. Moving forward, in order to comment out anything in Python which is not part of the code, we can, just use hashtag, which is, we can use shift and 3, or we can even use control forward slash in order to comment out any uh, statement that we're writing. So always use comments, because if you write like 100 lines of code, and in the future if you see your code, you won't be able to understand it. So it's always better to write comments, so you will always remember that what are you basically doing in this code. If you are writing a for loop, a while loop, so what is a for loop doing? So you can always use commands like this printing a variable, all right, or type casting a variable, all right. So I'll just enter control and forward slash, and this will be converted into a command. Alright, so this is how we use commands. Moving forward for the input and output statements, which is the most crucial thing we do in Python. So whenever we need to take a user input, so we'll use the keyword input and use parenthesis, and you see the color of the word input has been changed, and you can write, this is a message which will be displayed to the user: enter a number. All right, and when I'll run this, the user will be prompted that he needs to enter a number, so like 45, and this is it. All right, and we can even store it into a variable, as we discussed. Like we can write variable, and we can write is equals to, all right. So this will be the whatever the user inputs, that will go inside a variable called var, and it will be stored inside that. But if you see, uh, whenever the user inputs anything, this will what will be the type of it. Let's check it together. So I'll write print type, and what's the type of the variable var. So I'll write 23. So if you see, to by default, this is a string, and I've told you how to typecast it. So you can always write var is equals to int and var, and now when I'll run it, so this will be an integer value. So you can always type it cast like this, all right. And moving forward, and whenever we need to output something, we use the keyword print. Make it sure that all of the words are in lowercase, right? Even the variable, the keyword input is all low caps, all right. So make sure that, and you can write anything string. The user input is, all right. I can give a space. I'll insert a comma, and then I'll write var. So whatever the user input is, which is stored in the variable var, it will be printed over here. And we can even comment the two statements, all right. And I'll run it. So if we don't add the comma, so it will display an error to us, all right. So it's important to use comma if we want to print a value inside a variable, all right. One more method that we'll discuss is print f, which is format printing, all right. A customized printing. For a customized printing, we can always, like, add f before the inverted commas, and we can write the user input is, and like, we can then use curly brackets if there is a variable. So for this thing, we don't need to use a comma, all right. So we can use printf, but always make sure it if there's a space after f or a tab, so this will not work as intended. So this will say invalid syntax, all right. So make sure the syntax should be correct, all right. And this how you can do the customized printing using printf, and so on and so forth. And there's an assignment for all of you. I would recommend all of you to do this is the first assignment, and you can tell me in the comment section if you need a solution. And the second one is this thing, try it on your part, and do let me know if you find any problems. In the next video, we'll be covering what are the data structures in Python, which are list, tuple, and dictionaries, and so on and so forth. Until next time,